Hi and welcome to Tales of Al.
Today we're going to be tackling the second half of the first branch of the Mabinogion, which is the story of Pwyll, the Prince of Dyfed, and his meeting with the beautiful Rhiannon. As you may have known from the previous tale, there's strictly no mention of gods or the Fey realm or the other world, but it's safe to say that Rhiannon is not of this realm. What I love about it is it really is about this character Pwyll, who has conquered his weaknesses. He's gone and he's conquered chaos, and he is now a man of order, ruling a realm fairly and justly. But he still is a bachelor. So anyway, we'll just jump straight into it, and afterwards we'll discuss it a little bit.
Once upon a time, Pwyll was in Arberth, one of his chief courts. There was a feast prepared for him, and a large retinue of his men was there with him. After the first sitting, Pwyll got up to take a walk, and he made his way to the top of the mound, above the court known as Gorsedd Arberth, the throne of Arberth. "Lord," said one in the court, "a strange thing about that mound is that whatever nobleman sits upon it, he will not leave without one of two things happening. Either he will be wounded or injured, or else he will see something wondrous. I am not afraid to be wounded or injured amongst such a large company as this. As for something wonderful, I would be glad to see that. I will go and sit on the mound. Come," he said. And so he sat on the mound, and as they were sitting they could see a woman wearing a shining golden garment of brocaded silk on a big, tall, pale white horse, coming along the highway and ran past the mound. To everyone who saw it, they would think the horse had a slow, steady pace as it was drawing past the mound. "Men," said Pwyll, "do any of you recognize that rider?" "No, Lord," they said. "Let someone go and meet her, and find out who she is," he said. And so one of them got up, but when he came to the road to meet her, she had gone past. He followed her as fast as he could on foot, but the greater his speed, the further she drew away from him. When he saw that it was useless to pursue her, he returned to his prince and said to him, "Lord, it is useless for anyone in the world to pursue her on foot." "Very well," said Pwyll. "Go to the court and take the fastest horse you know and go after her." He took a horse and off he went. He came to an open, level plain and set his spurs to the horse. And the more he spurred the horse, the further she drew away from him. She was going at the same pace as when she had started. His horse became tired, and when he realized that his horse's pace was failing, he returned to where Pwyll was sitting. "Lord," he said, "it is useless for anyone to pursue that rider over there. I know of no faster horse in the realm than this one, and yet it was useless for me to pursue her." "Yes," Pwyll replied, "there is some magical explanation here. Come, let us return to court." And so they came to court to pass the rest of the day. The next day they got up and passed that too until it was time for them to go and eat. And after the first sitting, "Well," said Pwyll, "let those of us who went yesterday go to the top of the mound. And you," he said to one of the young lads, "bring along the fastest horse you know of in the field." And so the young lad made off, and Pwyll left with his men. As they were about to sit down, once again they saw a lady on the same horse, wearing the same garments, coming along the same road. "Here is yesterday's rider," said Pwyll. "Be ready, lad," he said. "Find out who she is." "Lord," he said, "I shall do it gladly." And with that the rider drew level with him, and then the young lad mounted the horse, but before he had settled himself into the saddle, she had gone past, putting a fair distance between them. Her pace was no different from the day before. He set his horse to an amble, and he thought that although his horse was going slowly, he would catch up with her. But that was futile. He gave his horse its head, and no closer to her than it was on foot, and the more he spurred his horse, the further she drew away from him. Her pace seemed no faster than before. Since he saw that it was futile for him to pursue her, he returned and came once again to Pwyll. "Lord," he said, "the horse can do no better than you have seen." "I have seen, and it is useless for anyone to pursue her," said Pwyll. "And between me and God, she has a message for someone on this mortal plane. Come, let us return to court." They came to court and spent that night singing and carousing until they were contented. The next day they amused themselves until it was time to go and eat. And when they had finished eating, Push said once more, "Where are those who were with me yesterday? And the day before that? Come, I wish to go once more to the mound." "Ah, here we go, Lord," they said. "Let us go to the mound," he said, "and sit once more. And you," he said to the groom, "saddle my horse. Do it well and bring it to the road, and bring along my spurs too." And so they came to the mound and sat down once more. They were there hardly any time at all when they saw the rider coming along the road, just as it had the day before and the day before that. "Groom," said Puck, "I see the rider. Give me my horse." And so Puck mounted his horse, and no sooner had he mounted the horse than she rode past him. He turned after her and let his spirited, prancing horse go at its own pace, and he thought that at the second or the third leap he would surely catch her. But he was no closer to her than before. He urged his horse to go a little faster, if possible, but he saw that it was useless for him to pursue her. And then Puck called out, "Maiden," he said, "for the sake of the man you love most, wait for me." "I will do so gladly," she said, "and it would have been better for your horse had you had asked a little while ago." The maiden stopped her horse and waited, drew back part of her headdress, which should have covered her face, and fixed her gaze upon him. "Lady," he said, "where do you come from, and where are you going?" "I am going about my business," she said, "and I am glad to see you." "My welcome to you," he said. Then he thought that the face of every maiden and every woman he had ever seen was somehow unattractive compared to her face. "Lady," he said, "will you tell me anything about your business?" "I will, between me and God," she said. "My main purpose was to see you." "That, to me, is the best business you could have," said Puck. "Well, tell me, who are you?" "I will, my lord. I am Rhiannon, daughter of Dyfed, and I am to be given to a husband against my will. But I have never wanted any man, for I love you, and I still do not want him unless you reject me. And it is to find out your answer that I have come." "Between me and God," replied Puck, "this is my answer. If I could choose from all the women and maidens in the world, it is you I would choose." "Good," she said. "If that is what you want, before I am given to another man, arrange to meet with me." "The sooner the better, as far as I am concerned," said Puck. "Arrange the meeting, wherever you want." "I will, Lord," she said. "A year from tonight, in the court of Dyfed, I will have a feast prepared, ready for when you come." "Gladly," he replied, "and I will be at that meeting." "Lord," she said, "farewell, and remember to keep your promise. I shall go my way now." They parted, and he went to his retinue of men. Whatever questions they asked concerning the maiden, he would turn to other matters. Then he spent the year until the appointed time, and Puck got ready with 99 horsemen. He set off for the court of Dyfed, and he came to the court, and they welcomed him. And there was a gathering, and rejoiced, with great preparations waiting for him, and all the wealth of the court was placed at his disposal. The hall was prepared, and they went to the tables. Dyfed sat at the top of the table, with Puck to one side and Rhiannon on the other. Each according to their rank, they ate and caroused and conversed. As they began to carouse after eating, they saw a tall, regal, auburn-haired lad enter. Wearing a fine garment of brocaded silk, he came to the upper end of the hall and greeted Puck and his companions. "God welcome to you, friend, and come, sit down," said Puck. "No," he said, "I am a suppliant, and I will make my request." "Do so at my pleasure," said Puck. "Lord," he said, "my business is with you, and I have come to ask you a favour." "Whatever it is you ask of me, as long as I can give it, it is yours." "Oh," exclaimed Rhiannon, "why did you give such an answer?" "He has given it, lady, in the presence of noblemen," said the lad. Friend, said Pwyll, what is your request? The woman I love most you are to sleep with tonight, and it is to ask for her, and for the preparations and provisions that are here that I have come. Pwyll was silent, for there was no answer that he could give. Be silent for as long as you like, said Rhiannon. Never has a man been more stupid than you. Lady, he said, I did not know who he was. That is the man of whom they wanted to give me against my will. That is Pwyll, son of Cled, a powerful man with many followers, and since you have given your word, give me to him for fear of bringing disgrace upon yourself. Lady, he said, I do not know what sort of answer that is. I can never bring myself to do what you say. Give me to him, she said, and I will see to it that he will never have me. How will this be? Said Pwyll. I have a small magical bag, she said. You should keep it safe with you. He is asking for the feast and the preparations and provisions. Those are not in your power to give, but I will give the feast to the retinue and the men, she said, and that will be your answer on the matter. As for me, I will arrange a meeting a year from tonight for him to sleep with me, and at the end of the year you will be in the orchard up there with your 99 horsemen, and have this bag with you. And when he is in the middle of his entertainment and carousing, come in, wearing some old ragged clothes and carrying this bag. Ask for nothing but to fill the bag with food, and I'll see to it, she said. And if all the food and drink in these 7 cantrips were put into it, it will be no fuller than before. And when they have thrown all of the food in there, he will surely ask, will your bag ever be full? And you shall reply, no, unless an extremely powerful nobleman gets in and treads the food down in the bag with both feet. Then I shall say, enough has been put in here, and I will see to it that he goes to tread the food down, and when he comes to turn the bag, so that he goes head over heels into it, then tie a knot in the string of the bag. Have a good hunting horn around your neck, and when he is tied up in the bag, give a blast of your horn. Let that be the signal between you and your horsemen. When they hear the blast of your horn, let them descend upon the court. Pwyll spoke. Lord, it is high time that I had my answer to my request. As much as you request, it is my power to give. You shall have, said Pwyll. Friend, said Rhiannon, as for the feast and the preparations that are here, I have given these to the men of Dyfed and to the retinue of the men that are here. I will not let those be given to anyone else. But for a year from tonight, a feast will be prepared in this court for you. And, my friend, you shall sleep with me. With this, Pwyll set off for his realm. Pwyll returned to Dyfed, and each of them spent that year until it was time for the feast at the court of Hyvaeth. Pwyll, son of Cled, came to the feast, and he had been prepared. He had made for the court, and they welcomed him, while Pwyll set off for the orchard with his 99 horsemen. Just as Rhiannon had ordered, he had his bag with him. Pwyll put on some wretched rags and a big rag boots on his feet, and when he realized that they were about to begin carousing after the meal, he made for the hall. When he had come to the upper end of the hall, he greeted Pwyll, son of Cled, and his company of men and women. May God prosper you, said Pwyll, and God welcome you. Lord, he said, may God repay you. I have business with you. Your business is welcome, and if your request is reasonable, then you shall have it. Reasonable, Lord, he said. I ask only to ward off hunger. This is my request, to fill this little bag that you see with food. That is a modest request, he said, and you shall have it gladly. Bring him food, he said, and a great number of servants got up to bring him food to fill his little bag. But no matter what was thrown into it, it was no fuller than before. Friend, said Pwyll, will your bag ever be full? Never between me and God, he said, No matter what is put in it, unless a nobleman endowed with land and territory and power gets up and treads the food down in the bag with both of his feet, and says, 'Enough has been put in here.'" "Ah, my hero," said Rhiannon to Groal, son of Cleed. "Get up quickly." "I will gladly," he said. He gets up and puts both feet into the bag, and Puck turns the bag so that Groal goes head over heels into it. He quickly closes the bag and ties a knot in the string that sounds his horn. Immediately his retinue descend on the court. They seize the entire company that had come with Groal and tie each man up separately. And Puck throws off the rags and the rag boots and untidy clothes. As each one of Puck's men enters, he struck the bag blow and asked, "What is in here?" "A badger," the others say. And this is how they played. Each one would strike the bag a blow, either with his foot or with a stick, and that is how they played with the bag. Each one he entered, he would say, "So what game are you playing?" "Badger in the bag," the other would say, and that was the first time that badger in a bag was played.
"Lord," said the man in the bag, "if only you would listen to me. Killing me in this bag is no fitting death for a lord."
"Lord," said Rhiannon, "what he says is true. You should listen to him. That is not the death for him." "I agree," said Puck. "I shall follow your advice on the matter." "This is what I advise," said Rhiannon. "You are in a position where it is expected of you to satisfy suppliants and musicians. Let Gwawl give to everyone on your behalf," she said, "and let him promise that no claim or vengeance shall be sought. That is punishment enough for him." "He accepts that gladly," said the man in the bag. "And I too accept it gladly," said Puck, "on the advice of Hyrvaidh and Rhiannon." "That is our advice," he said. "Then I accept it. Find guarantors for yourself." "We will answer for him," said Hyrvaidh, "until his men are free. Stand bail for him." And then Gwawl was released from the bag, and his followers set free. "Now ask Gwawl for guarantors," said Hyrvaidh. "We know who should be taken for him." And Hyrvaidh listed the guarantors. "Draw up your own conditions," said Gwawl. "I am satisfied with what Rhiannon has drawn up," said Puck, and the guarantors stood bail for those conditions. "Lord," said Gwawl, "I am injured and have received many wounds. I need to bathe, and with your permission I will depart. And I will leave noblemen here on my behalf to answer to all of those who may pay requests to you." "Gladly," said Puck. "Do as you propose," and so Gwawl set off for his realm. And then the hall was prepared for Puck and his company, and for the men of the court as well. They each sat down just as they had the year before. They ate and caroused, and time came to go to sleep. And so Puck and Rhiannon went to their chambers and spent the night in pleasure and contentment. Early the next day, Rhiannon addressed Puck. "Lord, get up and begin satisfying the musicians, and do not refuse anyone who requests a gift today." "I will do so gladly," said Puck, "today and every day while this feast lasts." And so Puck got up and called for silence, asking for all the suppliants and musicians to present themselves, and telling each of them to come and satisfy their wish and whim. And that was done. They consumed the feast, and no one was refused while it lasted, until the feast came to an end. "Lord," said Puck to Hyrvaidh, "with your permission I will set off to Dyfed tomorrow." "Well and good," said Hyrvaidh. "May God ease your path. Arrange a time and date for Rhiannon to follow you." "Oh, between me and God," said Puck, "we will live together." "As you wish, Lord. It is between me and God." And the next day they travelled to Dyfed, and made for the court of Arberth, where a feast had been prepared for them. The best men and women of the land came and assembled before them. Neither a man nor a woman among them left Rhiannon without being given a noble gift, either a brooch or a ring or a precious stone, and they ruled the land successfully that year and the next. But in the third year, the noblemen of the land began to worry at seeing the man whom they loved so much without an heir, and they summoned him to them. "Lord," they said, We know that you are not as old as some of us, but we are afraid that you will not get an heir from this wife of yours. And because of that, take another wife from whom you may have an heir. You will not live forever, they said. And although you may wish to stay as you are, we will not allow it. Well, said Pwyll, we have not been together for that long yet, and much may happen. Delay the matter until the end of next year. A year from now we will arrange another meeting, and I will abide by your decision. The meeting was arranged. Before the whole period had elapsed, a son was born to him, and he was born in Arbeth. On the night of his birth, women were brought to keep watch over the boy and his mother, but the women fell asleep, and so too did the mother, Rhiannon. 6 women had been brought to the chamber. They kept watch for part of the night. However, before midnight, each one of them fell asleep, one after the other, until they woke up with the cock crow. When they woke up, they looked to where they had put the boy, but there was no sign of him. "Oh," said one of the women, "the boy has disappeared." "Truly," said another, "burning us alive or putting us to death would be too small a punishment for this." "Is there anything in the world we can do?" said another woman. "Yes, there is," said another. "I have a good plan," she said. "What is it?" "There is a staghound bitch there," she said, "and she has pups. Let us kill some of the pups and smear the blood on Rhiannon's face and hands. Throw the bones beside her, and swear that she herself destroyed her son. The word of the 6 of us will prove stronger than hers alone." And so they all agreed. Towards daybreak, Rhiannon woke up and said, "My women, where is my boy?" "Lady," they said, "do not ask us for the boy. We are nothing but bruises and blows from struggling with you, and we are certain that we have never seen a woman fight as you did. And it was useless for us to struggle with you. You yourself have destroyed your son. Do not ask us for him." "You poor creatures," said Rhiannon, "for the sake of Lord and God who knows everything, do not tell lies about me. God who knows everything knows that you are lying. And if you are afraid, by my confession to God I will protect you." "God knows," they said, "we will not let ourselves come to any harm for anyone in this world." "You poor creatures," she replied, "you shall come to no harm if you tell the truth." But whatever she said, out of fairness or pity, she received only the same answer from the women. When Pwyll and his retinue awoke, the incident could not be concealed. The news spread throughout the land, and all the noblemen heard of it, and they gathered together to make some representation to Pwyll, to ask him to divorce his wife for having committed such a terrible outrage. But Pwyll gave this answer: "They have no reason to ask me to divorce my wife, unless she has no children. I know that she has a child, and I will not divorce her. If she has done wrong, let her be punished for it." Rhiannon summoned the wise and learned men, and when she thought it better to accept her punishment than argue with the women, she accepted her punishment. And so it was. She was to stay at the court in Arbeth for 7 years. There was a mounting block outside. She was to sit there every day and tell the whole story to anyone she came across who might not know it, and offer to carry guests or strangers on her back to the court, if they permitted it. But rarely would anyone allow themselves to be carried, and so her punishment started. At this time, Teirnion Turflaint was lord of Gwent Iscoed, and he was the best of men. In his house he had a mare, and throughout the kingdom no stallion or mare was more handsome. And every May Eve she would give birth, but no one knew at all what was becoming of her foal. One evening Teirnion spoke with his wife. "Wife," he said, "we are careless, losing our mare's offspring every year without keeping one of them." What can we do about it? She said. God's vengeance upon me, he said, if I do not find out the fate that befalls these foals. Tonight it be May Eve. He had the mare brought indoors, and he armed himself and began the night's vigil. As it began to get dark, the mare began to give birth to a big, perfect foal, which stands up on its feet almost immediately. Rhiannon gets up to examine the sturdiness of this foal, and as he's doing so he hears a loud noise. After the loud noise, an enormous claw comes through the window and grabs the foal by its mane. Rhiannon draws his sword and cuts off the arm at the elbow, so that part of the arm and the foal with it drops inside the house. Then he hears the noise and the scream at the same time. He opens the door and rushes off after the noise. He cannot see the cause of it because the night is so dark, but he rushes after it anyway. Then he remembers that he has left the door open, so he returns, and by the door is a small boy, swaddled in cloths and mantled in silk, wrapped around him. He picks up the boy and sees that he is strong for his age. Rhiannon fastened the door and made for the room where his wife was. "My lady," he said, "are you asleep?" "No, my lord," she said. "I was, but then you came in." "Here is a son for you if you want. Something you have never had." "Lord," she said, "what happened?" "I will tell you everything." And so he told her the whole story. "Well, Lord," she said, "how is this boy so well dressed?" "Yes, this silk is most rare. Surely he is the son of noble people." "Lord," she said, "it would be a pleasure and delight to me, should you agree, to take women into my confidence and say that I have been pregnant these long months." "I will agree gladly to this matter." And so it was done. They had the boy baptized in the way that was done at this time, and gave him the name Gwiri Wach Eiran, which means Guri of golden hair. The boy was brought up at the court until he was a year old, and before he was a year old he was walking strongly and sturdier than a well-developed or well-grown 3-year-old boy. The boy was reared in the 2nd year, and he was sturdier than a 6-year-old. And before the end of the 4th year, he was bargaining with the stable boys to be allowed to ride a horse. "Lord," said the wife to Rhiannon, "where is the foal you saved the night you found the boy?" "I ordered it to be given to the stable boys," he said, and told them to look after it. "Would it not be good, Lord, for you to have it broken in and given to the boy? For on the night you found the boy, the foal was born, and you saved it." "I will not disagree with that," said Rhiannon. "I will let you give it to him." "Lord," she said, "may God repay you. I will give it to him." And then the horse was given to the boy, and she went to the grooms and stable boys to tell them to look after the horse and break it in for when the boy would go riding. Meanwhile they heard news of Rhiannon and her punishment. Because of what they had found, Rhiannon, Turfliant, listened out for the news and inquired constantly about the matter, until he heard increased complaints about the wretchedness of Rhiannon's misfortune and punishment from all the people who visited that court. Rhiannon reflected on this, and looked closely at the boy. He realized that he had never seen a son and father so alike as the boy and Pwyll. Pwyll's appearance was well known to Rhiannon, for he had previously been a vassal of his. And then grief seized him, because how wrong it was for him to keep this boy when he knew that he was another man's son. As soon as he had the first chance to talk privately with his wife, he told her that it was not right for them to keep the boy, nor let a woman so noble as Rhiannon go punished. Rhiannon's wife agreed to send the boy to Pwyll. "And we shall get 3 things, Lord, as a result of that," she said. "Thanks and gratitude for releasing Rhiannon from her punishment, thanks from Pwyll for rearing the boy and restoring him, and thirdly, if the boy proves to be a considerate man, he will be our foster son, and he will always do his best for us." They agreed to that. No later than the next day, Rhiannon prepared himself with 2 other riders and the boy a 4th. They travelled towards Arbeth, and it was not long before they had arrived. As they approached the court, they saw Rhiannon sitting by the mounting block, and then when they drew level with her, she said, "My lord, go no further. I shall carry each of you to the court, and that is my punishment for killing my own son and destroying him." "My lady," said Ternion, "I do not imagine that any one of these will want to ride on your back." "If anyone wants to, then let him do so," said the boy. "I certainly will not." "God knows, my friend," said Ternion, "neither will I." They made for the court, and there was great joy at their arrival. A feast had been put on at the court, and Pwyll himself had just returned from a circuit of Dyfed. They went into the hall to wash themselves, and Pwyll welcomed Ternion, and invited him to sit. And so Pwyll sat with Ternion on one side, and Rhiannon on the other, and 2 companies above Pwyll, and the boy between them. When they had finished eating at the beginning of the carousal, they conversed. Ternion told the whole story about the mare and the boy, and how he and his wife had taken the boy in their charge, and how they had brought him up. "And this is your son, my lady," said Ternion, "and whoever told lies against you did you wrong. And when I heard of your affliction, I was saddened, distressed, and I imagine there is no one in this entire company who does not recognize that this boy is surely Pwyll's son." "No doubt about it," said everybody. "Between me and God," said Rhiannon, what a relief. What a relief from my anxiety if it is true." "My lady," Pendarren of Dyfed said, "you have named your son well. Pryderi, son of Pwyll, suits him best." "Make sure that his own name does not suit him better," said Rhiannon. "What name did you give him, lord?" said Pendarren to Ternion. "We called him Guri, Wacht Eiran." "Ah, well, Pryderi shall be his name henceforth." "That will be most appropriate," said Pwyll. "To take the boy's name from the word of the mother's mouth is received a joyous news about him." And they agreed on that. "Ternion," said Pwyll, "God repay you for raising this boy until now. It is proper for him, if he proves to be a considerate man, to compensate you for it." "Lord," said Ternion, "as for the woman who raised him, there is no one in the world who is grieving more for him than her. It is right for him to remember what we did for him, but for my sake and hers." "Between me and God," said Pwyll, "as long as I live I will maintain both of you and your realm, as long as I am able to maintain my own. If he lives to maturity, it is more appropriate for him to maintain you than for me. And with your agreement, and that of these noblemen, since you have raised him until now, we will give him to Pendarren Dyfed, to foster him from now on. But you shall all be his companions and his foster fathers." "That is sound advice," said everybody. And then the boy was given to Pendarren of Dyfed, and the noblemen of the land allied themselves to him. Ternion, Torfliant, and his companions set off to his land and his realm, full of love and joy, and he did not depart without having been offered the fairest jewels and the best horses and most highly prized dogs, but he wanted nothing. They stayed in their own realm after that, and Pryderi, son of Pwyll, was brought up carefully, as was proper, until he was the most handsome lad and the fairest and most accomplished in every worthy feat in the kingdom. And so years and years passed, until Pwyll's life came to an end and he died, and Pryderi ruled the 7 cantrefs of Dyfed successfully, beloved by his realm and all those around him. After that he conquered the 3 cantrefs of Ystrad Twy and the 4 cantrefs of Ceredigion, and in this way Pryderi, son of Pwyll, was occupied with his conquests until he decided to take a wife. The wife he wanted was Cigfa, daughter of Gwyn Gohwyl, and so they married. And so ends the first branch of the Mabinogion.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Now, that's one of my favourite tales, as dark and as strange as it might be. It is actually ridicule for the strange repetition at the beginning where Pwyll is endlessly chasing Rhiannon and is unable to capture her. But I want you to consider this. In the previous tale, Pwyll had mastered his world, spiritual and real, mastered chaos, and was effectively the noble king, the embodiment, the archetypal hero. And so when he meets Rhiannon, who is indeed magical, She's twisting time and space, and no matter how much order or power tries to use, he can't do it. He orders his men to do it, but at the end of the day, he himself is the one who has to deal with this. He has to submit to her will. He has to beg her to stop, at which point she does. All he had to do was give in to that chaos, the feminine, magical, the life giver. It's quite beautiful, really. Anyway, I think I'll make another video where I kind of dive deeper into this story. Until then, thanks for watching. See you in branch 2.